Good day to all. Today we're going to discuss about the areas of management advisory services. So this is just the first part or part one of the discussion. Here are the 6 dimensions of MAS engagements, and these will be tackled as we go along the way, from nature of the business down to geographical areas. For the nature of the problem, or we can see it here as nature of the business, but we are talking about the problem of the business, we can classify such as either of the three, whether that's corrective, progressive, or opportunistic. If we say corrective problem, this would be a problem that would actually correct or would actually make a situation the correct one or the accurate one. This usually arises suddenly and demands urgent action, meaning to say the problem seeker should be able to provide the immediate solution for this particular problem. So this demands correction and solution immediately. Then this would also be a situation in which conditions have worsened. If that's the case, then a solution is demanded. Otherwise, the condition would get worse and worse, or worst later on if superlative. So this is what corrective problem is all about. Next is progressive problem. This involves an existing situation that can be improved. So in this case, we are looking for possible developments or improvements to a specific problem. For opportunistic problem, then we are looking into a situation in which a future opportunity exists. We are looking for the greener pastures or areas. This can be closely connected to the previous one about progressive, since in progressive we are looking for possible developments or innovations about something, and then we want this to be improved along the way. So in the manner, or in that case, we're looking for future opportunities to happen. Now, this is more risky or riskier, but then we all know that the more risks there are, the more rewards there would be. As said, as more potentially rewarding courses of action. So probably we're looking here for investments, for example, since we're wanting or we would like to have rewards or benefits. That's just one example. Next, for service delivery areas, these are the specific areas in the business or of our client by which there are the specific functions or activities. And in these functions or activities, problem situation would exist, or there are actually problems in these particular areas. We can actually view them as the different functional departments. For example, let's say the marketing and sales, that's one department. The production, that's one department. That includes logistics. Then we also have the accounting and finance department, and so on and so forth. So those particular functional departments could be classified, could be analyzed further so that we would be able to diagnose the problem and we would be able to correct and solve such. Then for the analytic process, we apply such. We are going to make use of any data gathered in order to analyze, make sense of it, get information. Then from there, we are going to solve problems to support business decision making. So whatever things that we do here would be able to solve business problems versus operational processing, wherein in this case, data is just used to run the business. So in other words, this particular process for analytical is solving something that is not going or that has not been occurring in the ordinary course of business or day-to-day operations. It doesn't mean that When we say operational, it occurs day to day, but then at least, for example, for a period like month, such transactions would occur often. Okay, so for example, is purchase of supplies. That's not going to be done daily, but then regularly on a monthly basis, that's the least accounting period, then that's going to happen during such period. Then the analytic process here can be viewed, although this could be mentioned already in other courses. So we begin with identifying the objectives. What really causes, drives us to do the said steps, or why are we doing the analytic process? Why are we doing such? Why are we trying to solve this particular problem? And then after that, after we have known our objectives, goals, and purposes, then we should know what problem there is. So what actually is the situation that causes us to solve it? Then we find the facts. What are the surrounding circumstances about the problem which would be relevant to us or for us to be able to develop the solution in number four? And then this solution should be implemented along the way. So these are the 5 steps in the analytic process. For the techniques and methodologies applied, this is another area. So out of the 6 items that we have mentioned in this particular part, then areas of management advisory services, part one, a system of methods used in a particular area of study or activity. Well, in management advisory services or MAS, we're going to use a lot of methods. These techniques probably are discussed already in your management advisory services topics or subjects. So for example, for this one could be the, let's say, concept of the learning curve theory, and then we are going to solve that using the learning curve techniques or models. Another one could be for the concept of, let's say, bottleneck or constraint, the theory of constraints, and we are going to make use of throughput accounting. So for those who are done with MAS2, you know these topics or things. The concepts would be the, let's say, perspective, and then the techniques and methodologies would be the specific items to apply out of the perspective and of course to solve the problem. Then industry or nature of organization of our client would be as follows. So is it an entity that is privately owned, meaning to say this is an entity that is owned by a specific person or persons? For example, for partnership, we have the partners. In corporation, we have the shareholders. For old term, we have stockholders. Then for cooperatives, we have the members. So of course, for a sole proprietorship, we have the proprietor or owner. So is the business owned by them? In that case, we're talking about a privately owned business. So it's not owned by the government or the state. Then it is a for-profit organization as opposed to not-for-profit, and it is not organized for the sake of practice of profession. So clearly, privately owned is one of, if not the most common, but the most common organization or one of the most common classifications of the industry or nature of organization, because as we all know, a business is mainly organized for profit. Then for geographical areas, we can simply define this one as the location of the engagement. So where are we doing our engagement, our services, or we can say the domicile or address, official address, of course, of our client. Then these are the areas by which we can exercise our MAS practice as practitioners. The first one is very common. We know these management functions. We just think of POSDC, planning, organizing, staffing, directing, and controlling. Then second would be we can also introduce new ideas, concepts, and methods to our client represented by the management. As discussed in the first part, we've mentioned that it is the management who should be embracing our recommendations and should have the first hand and first sense of responsibility of implementing the ideas and sustaining such along the way. Number three is to improve. That's also one thing. Any existing policies, procedures, systems, methods, and organizational relationships. The fourth one would be application and use of the techniques and methods. So managerial accounting, control systems, data processing, and mathematical techniques and methods. Number five is it's like a case study. We conduct special studies. We are going to look into the situation of the business, look into the problem, know the data, the background, and the specific details of such. Then preparation or recommendation, of course. The types of consultancy work would be as follows. We can do the business planning and development or project feasibility studies, wherein the basic concept is that we are going to make or craft a plan of a business in terms of various areas. So this is one thing that is required most especially to business students and accountancy students. Second is in terms of information systems or information technology facilities present in the entity like the network, the computers, gadgets, and etc. And then the processes involved, not just the hardware, but also the software. So these are also typical consultancy works that can be done. Three is internal audit services, wherein our task is to make improvement to the existing processes of our clients, or if information would be gathered to improve the quality of such information. And then number four is management or operations audit, wherein we are going to check the effectiveness and efficiency of operations of the client or business. Number five is that for any existing business process that has to be improved or we re-engineer. So we are going to improve it, and in improving it is possible that we are going to change or tweak some aspects of such. And we also have the others. So other types of consultancy work. We have marketing research, wherein before making or crafting any product and introducing such to a target market, we are going to analyze first our target market, know the needs of the people from there so that there's a sure market for our product. Then B is to develop any marketing strategy. So in case we have our ways of promoting our product, how is that introduced to the market? Is it advertising? Is it any promotional campaign? So for example, Facebook, online. So how do we develop that? And as well as there is C, of course. Then D is planning sales force activity. So what particular campaigns in relation to letter C that are needed or that would be needed in order for us to increase our sales. Letter A is in developing a new product. So how to do such? How do we develop? This can also be a matter of consultancy. Then F is developing proposal for financial support. For example, is let's say a nonprofit organization that needs financial support from donors or benefactors or grantors. So in that case, how to make a proposal. So the objectives, purposes of such, what are the plans, so that the said people would be interested to place money to such program. Then staff recruitment, what would be the guidelines in hiring staff or people to be part of the client or organization. Then if we are going to go overseas or abroad to sell our products, exporting and going into the international market, what would be those areas or items? All right. So this ends the first part of our discussion involving overview of Management Advisory Services and the Areas Part 1. Thank you very much for listening, and God bless us all.